So, Dwight, today let's talk about glass cannon characters and how would you deal with it in game so that, hey, if I keep doing this character and I keep getting punished like this from the GM, maybe I should rethink my character not to be
Yeah.
this min-maxy thing that I kind of screwed myself here.
So, a glass cannon, in case you're not aware of what that is, think about it in a literal term. Like you've made a cannon out of glass, which means
Mm-hmm.
it does one shot and it's over. So, most people that do a one, and we have Matt, which we've had on this podcast before, is kind of notorious for his glass
He
cannon builds.
loves glass cannons.
So, what he does is he'll build a build that only works for one specific thing. Now, typically it's damage, although in this last game we played, it was kind of
Charms.
charms. Yeah, charming everything.
He made himself a pacifist to gain an extra like plus
Yeah.
6 DC on his charm, so nothing can be.
And other bardic knowledge and stuff 'cause he was a bard.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you do with a character or a player who basically is like, I'm going to min max my character in such a way that I can only do one thing really well and maybe another thing halfway decent, but anything outside of that, it's over.
Yep.
And then the real problem is, what do you do if that one thing is combat? Because that's typically what will be done. In this case, it was control, right? Battlefield control, which is a similar idea of combat.
Yes.
Big bad's coming at you, I charm it, I dominate it, I whatever. Same thing. Like, I can do 18,000 hits in a round because I've broken these four rules, and now I get this infinite hit option, and I can hit a dragon with one hit and kill it because it doesn't matter, right? I can kill a demigod or a real god's avatar, or even the real god itself on its home plane, because there was a build, actually, Matt again, there was a build that Matt did in a 3-5 campaign that he saw that you literally got infinite damage from.
2 feats.
Yeah, it really was dumb. We're not going to go into what it is, but the point
Yep.
is, this is the character that you're trying to play with. So, first of all, I look at it this way. Sometimes that can be fun to play, sometimes it can be fun to have in the party, but sometimes, in many cases, it's not. And so, one thing would be when you're doing character creation, just to head it off, just right away.
Yep.
And just say, either play a game that they're not that familiar with, thus they can't min-max the rules because they don't know the rules that well, or as the DM, or hopefully as the group, you just basically say, guys, we can't continue to do this, right? Like, I hate the fact that, like, you just show up into combat and you kill everything and we have nothing else to do. And then other times you're just sitting there bored. Like, I'd really want a more balanced character. Another thing you can do as a GM is you can, especially if they're working toward becoming that, I would almost ask that you just like, okay, what do you hope this character will be at level 8? What do you hope this character will be at level 12? So what happens if I tell you right now I'm not going to allow that feat?
Yep.
Like, there's just no way. There's just no way that would happen in my world. What are you going to do? Like, and I'm not trying to stomp on their parade because I do think there's an advantage to, like, player agency and stuff. But there's also a point of, to a certain degree, some of this could feel like cheating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legally cheating, but you're bending the rules to the point where they are broken. And you know they're broken.
You shouldn't punish your players for being invested into trying to figure out how to make their character the best that they can. There's just a balance on if they've made it so you really can't throw anything at them.
Yeah.
How do you create a good, interesting, tension-driven story when, okay, so it's basically everybody's running around and you have one punch man over there with
literally one punch man, yeah.
The standard like knight of, and then it's just like all of the knights from Monty Python and the Holy Grail that really aren't that powerful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's actually a lot like if you look at Lord of the Rings, it's Legolas and the rest of the party.
Yeah.
Because he's killing the Oilifants.
Does he?
You know what I mean? For God's sake.
Does he ever pull out a sword? Because his first go-to thing is like
He'll
grabbing
stab
an
you with
arrow, stab you an arrow straight to the eye. I don't need a sword. I always have an arrow.
Improvised crit weapon plus 28.
Yep.
How? I have 7 feats in that. You have 7 feats and stab people in the eye with an arrow. Yep. I do. And you're like, okay. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Is Legolas was so overpowered for the rest of the party, and specifically if the rest of the party was 4 hobbits who barely can walk the 3 miles or whatever because they're fat. I mean,
and complaining about second brunch.
right. Can we have 17 meals, please? Like, no. So the thing that the problem with all of this is that exactly what becomes the party is this concept where one party member is really good at something and sucks at everything else, but it's okay because those things never come up. And if they do,
Mm-hmm.
it's somebody else's problem, right?
Yep.
So I like to head it off at the beginning. If you can't head it off, then actually I do kind of like what our last GM was doing.
Very towards
Um,
the end, yeah.
it was just kind of like, oh, that's a golem. Oh, that doesn't have a will. You doesn't have a will save, so you can't
Mm-hmm.
charm it. Oh, that's the thing. You can't charm it. Oh, that's another thing. You can't charm it. And it basically just rendered him support, which I'm sure wasn't a good to play, but at the end of the day, it also taught him like
Yeah.
your character is worthless against
But
90% of the monsters we're now
the other
facing.
thing that he could have
So,
also done instead of making everything uncharmable
yes.
was he could have had, so you're in the back,
Yep. Oh yeah, we were because he's a
prime
bard and I was a wizard, so we're in the very back of the
prime
party.
target to have a sneak attack,
Absolutely.
prime target to have another mage that would have a high enough
Mm-hmm.
save
Mm-hmm.
to sustain the charm,
Well,
ping him with
we fought
another
it.
spell.
We fought enough drow. I mean, there's only a handful of drow, but they all got spell resistance and that in 3/5. So it's like it becomes really hard. Every spell you do, you have to make another roll to see if you can penetrate.
I would say look at their weaknesses.
Yeah.
Because normally they always have a weakness. You can't.
Everyone has a weakness.
You
Yeah.
can't. Even
Everyone.
even if they have high damage and they have really good saves, it's not like
Well, to a certain degree, I mean, you're always going to have one stat that's not good in saving.
and that would be
I mean,
enough to get in.
Well, even then, so let's say somehow you're a cleric, you got a good saves and everything else. You're in full mail. Okay, fine. Rust monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Rust monsters are the way to go because it doesn't care about your AC. It wants to touch that metal.
So normally those builds are good at higher levels, which means if in your natural progression, you could have a really high level mage that is also a glass cannon to an extent that's really good at taking out them.
Yeah, there's a good point. You could actually glass cannon the glass cannon. And maybe you get your own charmer. Maybe you get your own battlefield Hulk, right? I mean,
especially if they're like taking down like a archdemon or something really high level in your campaign, and these guys are the constant thorn to the side.
Yeah.
So yes, these are your meddling kids, but they're not going to just sit in their fortress and wait for the meddling kids to show up.
Right.
They're going to figure that out. Maybe they have scrying. Maybe they have somebody who survived that they didn't know about. Of hey, this guy's really powerful, but here's the weaknesses I saw.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to spend the next months to years designing a trap to exploit every single one of their weaknesses because I need to win.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good way to go, is to figure out, like, I guess it's like a Superman Justice League type of thing, right? Where it's like, okay, so how would Batman defeat your heroes? Right? What would Batman do to defeat your heroes? Okay, well, create a Batman who's just going to come in and just mop the floor with the one guy, and see what happens.
And you could have smaller scale Batmans who aren't as effective, but it still causes enough of a thorn in that guy's glass cannon build that he rethinks it.
Or you do the thing where you figure out, like, if it's a series of feats that they've used that are broken, you figure out maybe there's a series of feats that your guy can have that counter those feats, and then they go on with life. So, there's a couple options. I mean, just to summarize really quick.
Yeah.
Head it off before it starts, which is the most preferable. Just cut it out. If you know they're going to do it, just ask them not to do it. If they're still going to do it, try to get a gauge on where they're going, and then just say, hey, I'm not going to allow that for whatever reason. They're going to argue with you. It's going to be a little ugly. I guarantee it.
Yep.
If you still can't stop it for whatever reason, then I kind of like the idea of, like, figure out who Batman is in your campaign, who can just literally counter everything that one guy's doing and just make it very frustrating. And I hate to say that. I'd rather all of us have a good time, which definitely means that your characters should have a balance to them. They should have flaws. They should have things they're good at, things they're not good at. And, I mean, that's the thing. It's no fun to play in a room where Superman shows up because Superman can do everything, right? Why are we even here? Like,
That's why to always racket tension, they always take Superman out in some way to this cliche.
Yeah, it's so cliche, which maybe is what you do. You start taking them out
Mm-hmm.
and just go from there. Banishment's a great spell.
Or
And
have them fight somebody else, and
yeah,
now they're out of the main fight, but
Right.
they're fighting somebody else who's tailored to attack them.
You brought the Hulk, we brought our Hulk. Those 2
Mm-hmm.
Hulks are fighting. Now the rest of the party can fight the other 30 guys and have some fun,
Yep.
So, anyway, with that, we'll see you later. Bye.